Hello, this is Sian Powell making another video as part of a series for my training course, Continuous Directed Change. So we are now going to look a little bit more about self-talk. We've definitely spoken about self-talk as part of the 8 principles that help us to bring about effective change. So we talked about being kind to ourselves in our own mind, but I am going to talk about it in a little bit more detail now because I believe it to be one of the key elements, certainly from a personal level, changing my self-talk as a result of learning all these techniques and ideas that I now share with my clients in training courses and on one-to-one sessions has been probably the most influential and powerful thing that I've done. Now, that is obviously a personal thing because when I first started to do this work, my self-talk was embarrassingly bad. I was so negative about myself. And unsurprisingly, the quality, I really struggled with my self-esteem and lots of other things, because I was constantly beating myself up in my head. So if I ever made any mistakes, I went out, why did you say that? And because I've got ADHD, I do, by the very nature of my life, have plenty to criticize myself for. I struggle with timekeeping, I struggle with procrastination, I struggle with my emotional dysregulation. And so there was lots of fuel for me to beat myself up over. And I, as we've spoken about, now understand that because I got into that habit, it became these very strongly entrenched neural pathways in my brain. So it was just my habit to beat up on myself. And unlearning that, and primarily the key techniques that I used were actually visualizations and affirmations. Well, affirmations mainly, I suppose, but definitely visualizations as well, but mainly affirmations really helped me to just feel better, because whilst I definitely don't go around feeling like I'm God's gift to the universe, I don't beat up on myself anymore. And it's like I don't have a bully living in my brain anymore. So unsurprisingly, my life's better. So that isn't very sort of all about me, but I don't think, from when I've been doing my training and talking to lots of people, I don't think I'm alone in that. I don't think I'm alone in being in that habit. And I don't think a lot of us realize how much of a habit it is. So I just want to talk about a few techniques that help to overcome that habit. So I've already mentioned how useful affirmations are. My personal preference was to start off with something that I felt comfortable with, and that was, I accept myself. Because acceptance doesn't always mean like, and I was a very long way from liking when I first started this to do this kind of work. So I accept myself. If I've made a mistake, if I was running late, if things weren't going right, I accept myself. It's okay. I accept myself. And that really helped to kind of take the pressure off and ease things. Other people might be okay with the kind of I love myself. And those kind of things. I found that difficult to begin with. It's certainly something that's much easier now because I feel that way so much more than I did when I first started. But any of those things will help. And we've looked at the sort of rules for affirmations earlier on in the course. So that is one of the techniques. Another thing that I found really helpful, and I use a lot with clients, is to, again, it is helpful for reprogramming, teaching ourselves to have better habits. And that is to take a couple of minutes every day to go back over the day and notice the things that we've done well. notice the things, also things that we're grateful for, and we'll be looking at gratitude a little further on in the course, but you know, and things that we're happy about, but things that we've done well. And it's worth noting that this is quite counterintuitive for humans. You know, we, again, I think I've said this earlier on in the course, we are wired to survive, not thrive. So we naturally pay attention to threat, the things we've done wrong, the mistakes, the things that aren't going so well, because those are the things that have the potential to do us harm. So noticing those could keep us alive. So our brains naturally gravitate to noticing those things far more than we notice those things that are going well, that are good. But as I say, that doesn't lead us to thrive. And if we're not in a life-threatening situation, then it can be very helpful to change that habit, or to kind of rebalance things a bit by taking 5 minutes, in an ideal world, writing those things down. But if you can only just acknowledge them, and again, it can be helpful to create hooks, habits, where, you know, things that help us to do things on a more regular basis. So it might be that if you can get yourself to get used to doing it in the car on the drive home, or when you walk the dog, or when you get in the shower, you know, or after work, you know, if you can find the time to write something down, you know, give yourself 3 minutes, put the timer on just before you leave work, and just get a little notebook and write down 2 or 3 things that have gone well, and think about them, because this will create that neural pathway. It will also reprogram that reticular activating system, that neural net, and reprogram, teach you that doing things well is something that is normal for you, something that you do. It will set that neural net to pay attention to those things. Because what's happening when we have a core belief that I'm not good at things, or, you know, I'm not worthy, is we will filter out all that information. So there'll be lots of evidence in our brain to convince us that we're not so good at things, that we can't do things well. And we need to change that programming. That's another idea. And there is a whole load of information available in cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a therapeutic discipline, I suppose. Is a therapy that has been set up, and it is very focused on challenging our more negative thinking styles. So if this is quite a big issue for you, like it was for me, you might want to look at doing some cognitive behavioral therapy. And again, I would suggest doing this in the way that suits you. So I'm very much love good books, so I will put a link for Mind Over Mood, which is an excellent book, and is a very good place to start. There are lots of apps that teach us about cognitive behavioural therapy. It's available on the NHS, although I do believe there's a waiting list. And we can obviously access private counsellors who do cognitive therapy, but it is very much something that is set up to be very practical, very user-friendly. So just educating yourself about what are the thinking styles or thinking distortions that are part and parcel, have been identified in cognitive therapy, and trying to catch them in your own mind. So we can, you know, use those principles to teach ourselves to think in a more positive way. So that's just some ideas to help you. It might not be something that you struggle with, but if it is something that you notice that you know, I think I've said earlier on in the course, if you speak to yourself in a way that you would never speak to someone else that you care about, there's one person that you're spending the rest of your life with. And that isn't your kids or your loved ones or anybody else, it's you. You know, this relationship lasts until our dying day, God willing. And so it is worth putting the time and effort into developing a kind and respectful relationship with self, because that is a primary building block of improving the quality of our lives. So I'll leave it there. I hope that was helpful, and all the best.